Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another The Sports video. Today, we are talking about Richard Sherman, 49ers, well, obviously free agent now, but old 49ers Seahawks corner. You all know him, the trash talking, the really one of the greatest corners I guess we've ever seen. And he has narrowed it down as of recently. I saw on Twitter videos coming out a bit later, a couple hours after he announced it, but now you narrowed it down to three teams: either go back to the 49ers, go back to the Seahawks, or go to the Saints. So obviously he's going to a team where he most likely will not be the cornerback one, or at least be a cornerback 1B next to another guy. Because unfortunately, Richard Sherman isn't really that guy anymore. I mean, we really saw his career not take a dive, but just we saw him burn out, I guess, against the Chiefs. He's not able to cover as well as he was, obviously, in his younger days, in his prime Seahawk days with the, Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas, that amazing defense, that Pete Carroll Super Bowl winning defense, one of the best we've seen in this league. And he's just a great cornerback, a great mentor, someone who will go into a team and immediately make an impact, not only on the field, but to those young corners that we've seen a lot drafted. And especially with the three teams we're talking about now, there are a lot of young cornerbacks. Marshawn Lattimore can learn so much, a guy who really has potential to be an incredible cornerback. You look at the players the Niners drafted. You look at the Seahawks bringing Ahkello Witherspoon from the 49ers, someone who Richard Sherman can continue to develop, someone who's a very good slot cornerback. And I think the goal for Richard Sherman is to go to a team, get paid, maybe make a Super Bowl run, be on a playoff contending team, a winning team, develop a defense, and retire, I would say, probably in a year or two. Really, he's taking his time. Rightly so. He really waited after the draft. We thought he would sign in free agency, didn't. And the Saints were really a team that poked out. And today we're going to be talking about, the whole situation. Where do I think Richard Sherman will go out of these three teams? Possibly some teams I think he should have went to. And going on to that point, I think the Jets had a chance, obviously, with Salah, and that team now really bolstered their offensive line, their quarterback, their wide receiver room. And defensively, they haven't done much, at least in the secondary that really was exposed against the Raiders and basically continuously throughout the season. So I think that's something that they definitely needed to improve on, and they didn't, which is obviously disappointing. So I think Sherman there would go into more of a cornerback one role. And you look at kind of the division that the Jets are in, the Dolphins, a lot of problems at receiver room. Waddle, Fuller. You obviously have Parker, Williams. They have a lot of depth there. The Patriots, not as much, but they have two incredible tight ends now. They obviously, have 49ers receiver. So there is potential for the Jets. I think Salah was probably the most attractive part to Sherman, to go to that team. But looking at the Saints, I think, would probably make the most sense. I would think he would go there just because of Sean Payton's a very good coach. They have a defense that is good. They have an offense that is not a struggling quarterback, but kind of doesn't have an identity at that quarterback position. A very good offense and one of the best offensive lines. And I think what Sherman will see there is I can go in. I don't have to be the cornerback one. Arguably, doesn't even have to be the cornerback two, and just develop Lattimore, kind of be that role player for them, be that kind of veteran guy, which he's turned into. I believe he's in his 30s now. I'm not completely sure, but he's an older guy, and unfortunately, there isn't much upside with Sherman. He's 33. Sorry, so he's very far into his 30s. Obviously, not far, but at least for his NFL age, he's getting to the end of his career. I think he's still making an impact. Don't get me wrong, but I think on the Saints, the impact would be a lot better on different players due to that veteran presence that he really does have. And then you look at the 49ers. I mean, he's back to his old team. We saw what he's done there. He was good. He's a very, and versatile player. He plays zone, play man. This guy, arguably is more of an outside the hashes corner. But movement to the slot. None of these teams would really need to do that. So it's not like that's really a need for him to be incredibly versatile. As I said, he would be an outside corner, as that cornerback 2 or cornerback like 1A or 1B. And I think the Niners make sense. I mean, he goes back to a team, obviously, that lost their defensive coordinator to the Jets, really, really amped up, made that defense get better. But he's going back to a defense that's going to be healthy and was incredibly good. Kind of not came out of nowhere, but when they made that Super Bowl run in 2019, it wasn't like, oh my God, the 49ers would be great because they didn't have an amazing quarterback. And you look at the defense that really carried them. I mean, that defense had the best defensive line, arguably incredible secondary, probably the best middle linebacker, at least from what we saw last year, most underrated in Fred Warner. I think it makes a lot of sense for Rich Sherman to resign. And I think the odds for him to go back is pretty high. I wouldn't say there's a team that has a particular up or, higher hand, or he's put a certain team on the pedestal. I think obviously the 49ers, but then you look at now the team, last team to talk about is the Seahawks. I mean, he goes back to his old, you know, not boyhood team, but the team that he really grew his legacy and grew his stature as a cornerback on. A good coach in Pete Carroll. I think the Seahawks I wouldn't bet on, just because Russell Wilson is staying. Thank God to Seahawks fans. You have decommit. You have a good young core. Defensively, they're poor, so Sherman would probably need to play a more profound role than he would in San Francisco. So I think that would probably shy him off. I mean, they're not really Super Bowl contenders. The defense still has a ton of question marks. The coaching, the management is question and was really, emphasized that question mark and really put to light this organization's problems in the offseason, especially after they were knocked out of the playoffs. Russell Wilson immediately was like, hey, I want an offensive line. And a lot of people got, like he's going to move, and the Bears offered to trade. And, we've seen, I mean, the offseason has been crazy, but Russell Wilson was definitely a highlight of this offseason, that problem. And we really saw how not overrated as a coach Pete Carroll was, but how really highly we look at him, and how we don't criticize him as much as we do as other coaches. So I think Richard Sherman, again, it's the team that he grew. It's the team that he played the best on. It's the team that he beat the 49ers on, the team that, he's done so much, won a Super Bowl. I mean, it's the team that he made his legacy with. But then you look at the Niners, a team that really had so much potential and got to the top and fell short. And with Trey Lance now, does he think that they can go make it? Maybe he does. So I think Richard Sherman has a lot of options. But let us know what you guys think in the comments down below. We obviously, not as many edited videos or kind of touch up videos as of recent, but we're, kind of taking a bit of a break. Obviously now, right now is like the, gushy part of the NFL season, because the season's too far away. The draft's kind of done. So obviously we will be getting a ton of content, but if you guys are new, do make sure to subscribe. We have a new series coming out, or not a new series, a reoccurring series that we had last year. The series that really put us on the map, the Buster Boom series, where we analyze each team for the NFL season, talking about their offseason, what they did in the draft and free agency, talk about their key players, and give kind of a prediction and kind of a overview of how we think that team will do. We did 10 teams last year. We're going to attempt 32 this year. So make sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and, we'll get more videos out like this, kind of talking topics. But kind of pumping the brakes a little bit on content as of recent, just because, there's not much to honestly talk about. And even that you can always talk about football. So there will be content coming out, but just not as high quality, I guess, or at such a, rapid rate, although we have. But make sure you check out our draft grades as well. Posted that yesterday. We'll see you in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Cian McDermott, analyst from the Esports Scoop. We'll see you in the next one.